Welcome, welcome. Now, if you've seen the latest short, you're going to know what this build is about. But essentially, after a discussion with a buddy, I had this giant gumball machine built in my dojo, and I wanted a good reason to keep it in here. Now, there is one aspect of dojo building that I'm yet to practice, and that is making mechs. So I figured this would be a goofy opportunity to make a big gumball mech. Now, of course, every cool dynamic mech scene needs an enemy. I'm thinking of making a giant evil claw machine. Now that said, let's get into the time lapse. Alright, so we get started here. You might be wondering what those corporate walls are for on the background. And they're literally to highlight the edge of the room, remind me how far back I can build. Nothing more infuriating when you get a decent chunk into your sculpt and realize you don't have the space to finish it. In terms of locomotion for this mech, I was torn between treads or legs for quite a while, and for the gumball it felt cool to put it on tank treads. I did do a little experiment where I put it on these kind of walking legs, but it gave it too much of a spider vibe. I thought that would be way better for the claw machine, which is going to be like the evil counterpart. As always, guys, if you want to be accurate, take the time to measure things out. So that bar in the center is nothing permanent. I'm using it to make sure that the chest region lines up with the base plate where the legs attach. Now you are going to see the ship umbilical connector used a few times on this mech. I really like its neatness, and when you stack a few of them together, they kind of resemble ball bearings. I think they make for really nice articulation points on this particular mech. Now the first arm I wanted to make into a claw or a hand. I had the image of the mech catching one of the claws from the claw machine and crushing it in its grip. I had to make sure that I had the articulation right for that, and to make sure that the joints look plausible enough that they could move to crush something. Now the second arm is where we get a little bit silly again, and I had the idea of the gumball machine mech using the gumballs as ammunition to fuel a big machine gun. So I went and built a really big cartoony steampunk style machine gun, and then hooked up a little line to the ammo up to where the head is. I'm going to move on to the claw machine. Now, when you're dealing with any kind of corruption or ruin, I personally find it easier to build a nice version first and then ruin it afterwards. And then you kind of know what pieces should be where. I'm going to build a pretty solid looking cabinet for the claw machine, and then we'll add the infestation later. We're at a pretty rookie area here. You see the cabinet leaning forward. That should be its front face. Like an idiot, I built the control panel and everything on the wrong side. Alright, so onto the spider legs for the claw machine. Now in editing, I'm realizing this is kind of giving the vibes of Babyface from Toy Story. That's probably why when I built them originally, they gave me a kind of creepy feel. And why I saved them for the claw machine. Same as the arms on the Big Mech. I want to try to make them look like they could feasibly move. I'm going to go with some kind of ball and socket joints at the top, and then a few simple hinges along the segments of the legs. That's all the mechanoid bits in their clean state, so now we're going to start introducing some corrupted elements. I'm going to start with a big focal point, being a big eye in the center. We can then build out the body mass from that, and decide how it's going to affect the claw machine. I love giving credit to ideas that aren't mine, and having the glass orb be the front of the eye is not an original idea, but I cannot for the life of me remember where I saw it. But essentially that sheen on the glass helps make the eye look wet. Alright, as we wind down the time lapse, just the claws to build. Of course, we're going to have that one in the hand, as I was saying earlier, that I wanted getting crushed. And I've got plans for a second claw. Reach up to the mech's face and try to get at the juicy gumballs. And with all that, we are pretty much done. So let's slap on preview mode, have a little look around to see what we built. Also, we got those cool little spider legs. Add a little detail to the legs that are touching the ground and put like little impact craters just to convey the weight and size. So we've got a little control panel for the claw machine and that big glistening eye in the center. I should put a few of those glass orbs in there just to heighten the effect of that shine. Got some little trophies and things like that in that mask too, like they are the original prizes from the claw machine. Got some corruption on the case creeping out, taking over some of the legs. A little outbreak on the ceiling as well. Obviously all the infestation reaching out towards the enemy mech. Then we have our little claws. We have the one that's being crushed. It looks all degraded and there's a bit dangling off it. A few spark effects in there as well. Then the operable claw reaching up towards the mech's face, peeling off the panels, trying to get to the contents inside. And of course we've got our stoic Gumball mech filling out. I like the weight of this, like leaning into the attack, like he's on the offensive. Pretty neat. Then I changed the structure of the mech a little bit. There's a cool little traversable path where if you enter through the Gumball chute, you can go up through the center, along the little staircase or Gumball chute. Then you'll emerge at the head. You can kind of pilot the mech. Now I'm up for making things into mechs that shouldn't be mechs. If you have any ideas, leave them in the comments. I will make a proper cinematic showcase later on, just to highlight some of the details that I've glossed over here. That's all for this one though. Peace out. Catch you in the next one.